Get back in control with Off the Wagon, adventures in emotional eating, health, and weight loss. Each episode containing fork-sized mindset tweaks, perspective shifts, and lifestyle hacks to get you back on the wagon. Whether it's habit change, emotional eating, addictions, weight loss, willpower, or relationships, there's something here for you. So let's get on the wagon and get down the road to your goals with me, Christy R. Hall. Welcome to episode 45, where today we're talking about what a healthy relationship with food and even your body looks like. We focus a lot on our thoughts and behaviors, how to change our habits and patterns, as well as learning and developing new coping skills to allow us to have choices in how we deal with the moments that life throws at us. And all of these things together really fall under the umbrella of our relationship with food and even our bodies, especially when you include our dieting and exercise behaviors. And you might be thinking, relationship with your food and your body? What is she even talking about? But as an example, you might know or get a sense when someone is upset with you or when you've hurt their feelings. You might be able to tell when someone else is going through something and needs a little bit of help and support. You probably know what it is to be mad at a friend or to have them be mad at you, to betray someone or to be betrayed by someone. You may have experienced guilt over something you have done to another person. There may be someone in your life who, at one time or another, you were afraid of. Your relationship with your food and your body is really no different. When your relationship with your food or your body isn't quite what it should be, you kind of feel it. You know, this isn't what you were expecting it to be. That there shouldn't be this kind of struggle or discomfort. That it should be easier than it is. You have this sense that there should be, could be, more to it. That it could be more fulfilling and have less anger, frustration, dislike, and even mistrust. And when you think about it, most of us kind of have a feeling for when it's not right. But for many of us, because we've never really had healthy relationships with our food or our bodies, we may not know really what a healthy relationship would look like or what it would even feel like. And I want to draw your attention to my use of the word healthy. I didn't say good or bad, because like most relationships you have, there's not one that's all good all the time, and there's not one that's all bad all the time. And if you're in one that is all bad all the time, for heaven's sake, get out of it. But like any relationship, your relationship with your food and your body is bound to have some ups and downs. Like any other human-to-human relationship, it will be affected by how much you've slept the night before, what your mood is like, what your hormone levels are like, what you've eaten in the past several days, whether you're hungover, and whether you're on good terms with all of your other relationships. So there are going to be good moments, bad moments, happiness. There's going to be fights. It's going to run the entire gamut, the full spectrum. And just like you have angry moments and lash out at a friend or a loved one, you may lash out at your body and restrict it or starve it or exercise it to excessive fatigue. Just like you may punish a friend by spending time with others instead of her, you may ignore your body's wants, desires, and even cries. You may find yourself frustrated when a friend doesn't heed your advice or your body doesn't respond the way you want or expect. and resort to drastic measures. All the same nuances of a relationship with another person are there in the relationship with your food and your body. The difference is that because it's your body, your mind, your will, you think you can control it, that you should be able to control it, which is a deceptive belief because when you start a diet, remembering that when we say diet, we mean a way of eating or a pattern of eating that may or may not include eliminations or restrictions for the purposes of health, you manifest a huge amount of willpower and will. You fight cravings and desires. You do things that you don't really want to do, and you manage to pull it off for days, weeks, sometimes even months. But then something happens, and that strength of will is no longer enough, and you begin to wonder what's up. I mean, if you could control it then, why can't you control it now? But the thing to appreciate about your body is that even though you think that you are in control, you're not. There are things that happen automatically without your attention, sometimes without your knowledge. You don't consciously say, okay, it's time to breathe now, or digest food, or eliminate toxins from your blood. Your body does that, not mindlessly, but intelligently, based on the time of day, the raw material it has to do the jobs, and so forth. If you were in a coma, a majority of those daily tasks would continue happening. My point here is that you're not in as much control over your body as you'd like to think. You can only control so much about the air you breathe, the water you drink, the food you eat. You can only provide your body with what you think it needs, understanding that most of the time, by the time you or your doctor or your blood work suggests that you need something, chances are you've been living without it for a while. And just like a relationship with your significant other isn't judged by one fight, your relationship with your food or your body shouldn't be judged by the eating of one donut or even those 5 or even 50 pounds. Food is fuel and nourishment for the body. Yes, it definitely provides pleasure, but more importantly, the eating of food provides your body with the building blocks it needs to keep you alive and hopefully running optimally. Eating certain kinds or even quantities of food does not in any way determine your worth or value as a human. I've said it before, but it bears mentioning again. There are people all over the planet with all sorts of anomalies and strangeness going on in their systems. This is why no one way of eating works for everyone. While one person would thrive on a diet of raw fruits and vegetables, another might become incredibly ill because they don't have the enzymes needed to digest those foods. The same thing goes for one person who eats the fattiest cuts of meat versus the person who can only eat lean. It's not just about what research says, but how you feel while doing it. How those rules and guidelines and research can effectively be applied and leveraged in the scope of your everyday norms. Likewise, a healthy relationship with food and your body is free from guilt about what you are or are not eating, how you are or are not working out, or how you do or don't look. There's no fear over bad food or even fear of a pound or two seen on the scale. When your relationship is healthy, you realize that some fluctuation is normal. There is no attachment or obsession over certain kinds or types of foods that you absolutely must have. A healthy food and body relationship isn't based on judgment. So, no good or bad behavior or good or bad foods, and no labeling yourself a failure when you give in and eat a slice of pizza. Instead, a healthy food and body relationship has a strong basis in understanding. And by understanding, I mean understanding which foods make you feel good and which ones don't, which behaviors make you feel good and which ones don't. And at the same time, that understanding extends to understanding why you choose what you choose, why you do what you do. Whenever you're struggling with making change or find yourself going back to your old ways of doing things, you may not like it. In fact, you probably don't like it. But understanding will get you a lot further along down the road to change than being angry with yourself and resisting and trying to brute force yourself into getting back on the wagon and making those changes. And actually, now seems like a really good opportunity to talk about the whole good food, bad food thing. If you travel, and a lot of us do, in diet recovery programs, groups, or even intuitive eating or normal eating groups, you may find that there is this big push to give up and get rid of good and bad food labels. That is, the self-labeling of foods as good or bad. And while on the surface this seems like it would be helpful, in many instances it seems that people use it as an excuse to ignore common sense and rational thinking. And what I mean is I've seen folks throw out the whole good-bad label and then binge eat candy bars for a week because they, quote-unquote, weren't bad. Now, is eating a candy bar like swallowing rat poison, which you absolutely should not do? No, it's not the same thing. But would it be healthy? No, because it would cause huge spikes in blood sugar, which would cause huge releases in insulin. And research shows that insulin creates long-term inflammatory responses. So it probably wouldn't kill you, but is it in alignment with your health and wellness goals? At the same time, another food we keep hearing about being so bad for us is wheat and wheat gluten. And again, I'm not suggesting that you follow the party line and give up wheat or add it back because wheat is fine. In fact, I'm saying if wheat doesn't cause a problem for you, then by all means, if you like it, eat it. But my mother, for example, I wouldn't suggest to her that she eat wheat because it's quote-unquote good for her, because it makes her run to the bathroom sick to her stomach. Therefore, it's not really the best choice for her. If you want to give up the good-bad labels, consider switching or modifying them. Maybe more optimal or less optimal, more healthy or less healthy. You can pick any word: nutritious, balanced, or even in alignment. It's less about the word, really. I think that the problem with good and bad is that it indicates a sort of black and white thinking that just isn't realistic or true when we're talking about food or our bodies. There is no food that is all good without any drawbacks. And the opposite is also true. Food is on a spectrum. And every time we go to put something in our mouths, we not only have to be aware of where something is on that spectrum, but also how that spectrum applies to us. Like I said before, if you can't handle raw cruciferous veggies, then it doesn't matter how healthy they are. They're not that healthy for you. And it doesn't matter how healthy spinach is. If you have a problem with oxalates, then spinach isn't that healthy for you. The same goes for dairy, wheat, sugar, artificial sweeteners, corn, potatoes, any of it, and all of it. So let's take it one step further and look at exercise for a moment. Most people would say that running or jogging is healthy. But if you have problematic knees or ankles or hips, you already know it's probably not your best exercise or fitness choice. If you're an out of shape homebody, you probably shouldn't be jumping into intense P90X workouts unless you want to be praying for death the next day. If you have shoulder or back problems, then CrossFit might not be the place to start since that's where a majority of the injuries seem to be. That's not saying that any of these fitness choices aren't healthy. They are. It's more about finding an exercise or a fitness routine that works with you where you are right now. So a healthy relationship takes into account your own personal knowledge about your body, its capabilities, as well as what you do and don't like. And finally, a healthy food and body relationship is aware of non-physical hunger and deals with it appropriately. The idea here is to be able to identify what's going on with you when you find yourself rummaging for something to eat, but aren't really physically hungry. We should have enough coping skills and mechanisms that eating to deal with stressful situations, emotions, and day-to-day life should not be the one we go to first. So your mission today, should you choose to accept it, is to sit down and really think about your relationship with food, with your body. Do the best that you can to separate yourself from it, as if it were a separate entity. How has food or your body hurt you? How have you hurt or betrayed it? How have you rejected and neglected each other, denied and deprived? This sounds sort of silly and even like a mental issue just waiting to happen, but it can be very therapeutic, especially if you can get out of your own shoes and see things from the other side. And what I mean here is just imagine how your body would feel if it was a person like your friend. And let's say you forced your friend to run 5 miles every day when she hates running. And you do this to her because you think she's fat. Or think about how this same friend might feel when she is feeling so very hungry and she's asked you for food, but you won't give her any because you're on a diet. Next, think about how you want this relationship to look, how you want it to feel. How would you want to feel in this relationship with your food, with your body? Would you want it to be loving and supportive? Would you want it to be caring and nurturing? Identify all the qualities that you want in your relationship with your food and with your body. And see if you can come up with ways to remove those obstacles, those roadblocks, those betrayals, those moments of anger and frustration and neglect. How can you work with your body to resolve those issues so that you can move forward together in friendship, as companions even? And finally, identify what are some first steps, some peace offerings that you can do to rebuild this relationship with yourself. Hopefully, as you work through this exercise, you'll begin to see some of your actions from a different perspective. You might even find yourself trying to work with your body, even trying to negotiate and cooperate to get your relationship back on track. Unlike a spouse you can divorce, or a friend that you can never see again, you're in this relationship for life. So you might as well make it a good one. I hope this has been helpful for you today. If you'd like to talk to me about your relationship with your diet or with your food, I would love to talk to you. You can find me on Facebook at fb.me/. Facebook.com/Coach Christy R. Hall or at my website, www.christyrhall.com. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll talk to you soon.